WashingTECH.
Hey, it's Joe, and I don't have to tell you, relationships are critical in Washington. But how do you, A, find out who the key players are, and B, figure out how to reach out to them? Well, I want to tell you about Leadership Connect. It's been an absolute lifesaver for us as we expand our operations and outreach here at WashingTECH. Leadership Connect, it's the digital service used by top federal contractors and government affairs leaders to contact decision makers and develop those strategic relationships. Visit leadershipconnect.io and join the community. I love it, and I'm 100% sure you will too. That's leadershipconnect.io. Try it now.
Support for this podcast has been provided by referrals.internetassociation.org, Internet Association's new job site. IA understands and helps shape policies for its member companies. Collectively, they understand their platforms and services perform better with the perspectives of diverse employees and users who share their experiences. Visit Internet Association's job referral site at referrals.internetassociation.org to view and apply for openings across participating IA member companies. By partnering with leading civil rights organizations, including AnitaB.org, the Bipartisan Congressional HBCU Caucus, the National Urban League, and the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, IA's job site is a new resource for historically underrepresented job applicants interested in working in the internet industry. Visit the site today at referrals.internetassociation.org.
Welcome to the WashingTECH Tech Policy Podcast.
From Washington, D.C., it's the WashingTECH Tech Policy Podcast.
With Joe Miller.
Joe Miller.
And we're back. It's good to be back. I missed you. How's the pandemic treating you? How's work? What are you thinking about these days? We've got a new toll-free number you can call to tell us what's on your mind. Call 1-866-482-3898. You can text us there too, 866-482-3898. So we've switched to a seasonal model, and this is the first episode of our 6th, episode 241. It's hard to believe we've been doing this so long, and tomorrow's our birthday. The podcast, that is, the organization itself launched in 2014, but on September 15th, 2015, Arizona State University's Kim Scott joined me to chat about girls and STEM careers. Here's a clip from that interview.
I started my career in this domain working in an urban school district that was considered high needs. And it was during my time in that setting that I noted the differential teaching that was going on from classroom to classroom and certainly school to school.
And the music was different. Here's the intro from that first episode.
The DOJ drops espionage charges against a Temple professor. The U.S. and EU agree to share data, and the FCC establishes a hot clock for Charter and Time Warner Cable. I
didn't sound bad. I hate listening to the sound of my own voice, but that was pretty good. Then, of course, we had the intro. Listen to this.
It's the WashingTECH Policy Podcast. With Joe Miller.
Did you hear that whisper, the guy in the background? This is actually a male and female intro. So the guy didn't just come up out of nowhere, but I had him whisper under the female voiceover artist. Listen to this.
The podcast with Joe Miller.
What the hell is that? I thought that was such a cool effect back then. Anyway, listen, I want to thank you for sticking with us the month of August. I thought our download numbers would be way down, but they were actually higher, which was unexpected but appreciated. I'm glad we're creating the kind of content you can keep going back to and learning from. And you know, it says so much about our guests too. So thanks to our guests, there would be no podcast without you. So thank you so much. Also, we had a big announcement last week. Charlton McElwain, Vice Provost for Faculty Engagement and Development and Professor of Media Culture and Communication at New York University, has joined us as Chairman of the Board. Dr. McElwain also directs NYU's Center for Critical Race and Digital Studies. So we are incredibly fortunate to have him on board, and he'll be joining me on the show next week. And I'm absolutely thrilled to have the opportunity to work with Charlton, NYU, and really just staying connected to the city that's always in my heart. The big A. DC is in my heart now, too. I miss DC. I miss going downtown every day. I was talking to a friend, Lauren Wilson, who works over at Denton's, and she says she misses being outside the city. It always looks greener, right? Anyway, we've got some additional board members we'll be announcing over the next few weeks, so we'll use this first episode to talk about what's on the horizon for the upcoming year. First up is election security, which is multifaceted. You have both Chinese and Russian operatives continuing to spread propaganda and misinformation. We have domestic actors now like QAnon, also a threat to election security, and we're going back to old technology, the U.S. Postal Service for absentee balloting to control exposure to COVID-19. And because of that, Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act is now mashed up in all this. Before, it was Trump's attack on California Governor Gavin Newsom's executive order to allow mail-in balloting that triggered Trump's tirade on Twitter, making all sorts of unsubstantiated claims about mail-in voting being unreliable, which Twitter then flagged as misinformation. Stanford's actually done a study on this that shows no partisan effects whatsoever and only a modest increase in voter turnout. We've linked to that in our social media, so if you're looking for the paper, you can find it there. And that is what led the president to pass an executive order directing the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, a sub-agency of the Department of Commerce, to open a petition asking the FCC to use Section 230 to somehow regulate internet companies like Twitter, Google, and Facebook. Both FCC Chairman Ajit Pai and Republican Commissioner Mike O'Reilly expressed doubts about the FCC's jurisdiction. And then Trump indicated he wouldn't renominate O'Reilly. This is supposed to be an independent agency. In any case, the Section 230 initial comment cycle ended last week. There will be replies, and then we're likely to see a decision. And of course, there are various other proposals to reform Section 230 as well, and we'll see how that plays out. It's anyone's guess at this point. And then we have U.S.-China relations, another issue that's not going away anytime soon, although the nature of that relationship is very dependent on who wins the presidential election. The president, as you know, has threatened TikTok's U.S.-based business, saying he's shut them down here, saying he would shut them down here like he did with Huawei unless they find a U.S. partner to manage their operations in the U.S. Oracle won the bid for that, beating out Microsoft and Walmart, of all companies. China denies that Oracle is going to be taking over U.S. operations. What a mess. Anyway, Oracle is led by Larry Ellison, a billionaire who hosted a $100,000 per person fundraiser back in February for Trump for opportunities to golf and get photo ops with the president. Oracle and Trump have a common enemy in Amazon as well, with Oracle wanting to steal market share away from Amazon's cloud business. And Jeff Bezos, of course, owns the Washington Post, a publication the president has criticized for being biased against him. So the propaganda dynamic element is interesting here, especially in light of Steve Bannon's arrest. And I would assume that perhaps the president is a bit desperate about his machine and sees Larry Ellison and, let's not forget, Peter Thiel as key allies in a pivot away from what he allegedly relied on in 2016. And finally, we have surveillance with ongoing protests and fallout from the death of George Floyd as police shootings continue. We're continuing to look at the way algorithms are used, not just for police to surveil demonstrations, but also to maintain disparities in credit lending, grading, hiring, and pretty much every other context you can think of as more and more of our lives become automated. And the American people, it appears, don't value privacy as much as they used to, with the prospect of free content and the human need for interaction and validation taking a higher priority, it seems. And as Congress and the Federal Trade Commission continue to flail about looking for a privacy framework, there's more, but I won't keep you. I'm very much in favor of dismissing everyone early the first day of class. But as always, I see you. I love you. I'll see you back here next week, and take care of yourselves. Remember, reach out, 866-482-3898. Operators are standing by. Actually, no, they're not. But leave a message. Perhaps we'll feature you on the show. Again, it's 866-482-3898. Stay healthy and wear a mask. I want you alive when the rest of us get back to seeing each other in person again. Take care.
WashingTECH.